Hello.
Hey, how are you? So, I would like to ask you some questions about Hardline. Okay, where did the idea for Battlefield Hardline come from?
It actually came from some conversations we had with the team members back at the DICE studio about 3 years ago. So we started working on the Visceral team on the Battlefield 3 Endgame expansion pack. And during that time, we had some conversations about how we could open up the Battlefield universe and bring it to a whole new world. And Cops and Robbers, Cops and Criminals was kind of something that lent itself really well from a fiction and fantasy perspective to the Battlefield universe. And so ultimately we just kind of said, we should go run the ball with this. This is really cool, and off we went.
Yeah, okay. Jumping from World War to a Heist is such a big shift. And how are you able to change the stay the same and still maintaining the Battlefield thing?
I think it's about it's about being conscious about what the key pillars of Battlefield are. And so we've done a lot of legwork with the team at the DICE studio to understand all of the pillars that they've created that have ultimately led into building all of the Battlefield games thus far. So it's about understanding those, and then it's also about taking a look at the fantasy or the fiction that you have, in our case, Cops and Criminals, and seeing how we can take that fantasy and map it to kind of the existing pillars of the franchise. And so it was a process where we worked with the DICE team to understand how they had developed past games, and then we said, we've got this concept of Cops and Criminals, and how do we take that concept and map it to this franchise?
Okay, Battlefield is all about multiplayer. When you talk about Battlefield, you talk about multiplayer, right? But in Hardline, it seems DICE with the help of Visceral and brings a more thematic approach of storytelling campaign. So tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, so I think, traditionally Battlefield is absolutely a multiplayer franchise, but I think the Battlefield franchise has grown into being a game that has single-player and multiplayer components. And so when we started looking at Battlefield on the Visceral side, obviously there's that kind of history of Dead Space and kind of the team being able to build and craft really cool storytelling experiences. So that was a big part of our effort, was how do we take the Battlefield franchise and how do we take it with kind of that expertise of Visceral and meld those two together to create something that's a really compelling cinematic campaign.
Alright. I myself like Revolution in Battlefield 4.
Me too.
Yeah, you do? Okay. Are you going to use it in different ways this time? Is there anything more interesting, anything like that to enhance the Battlefield experience?
Yeah, I think again it's about working within kind of the idea or the concept of the fantasy that you have. So we will absolutely have Levolution, like in the downtown map you played today. We have the big crane moment of the crane falling down and smashing onto the freeway. But we're also going to have other types of Levolution moments that play into the kind of the fantasy of the Cops and Criminals, and that ultimately probably provide more of gameplay changing things that are more on like a mid to small level scale, but that fit into the Cops and Criminals fiction. So things like being able to shoot down a wall with a guy running behind it, tear that wall up and shoot that guy, or blowing a hole in a wall, and providing a new route for players to get to an objective point. Things like that, where we're really trying to affect the map design and the player routes to get to the objectives and to make the maps more fun.
Okay. One more question. I know there is a new mode called esports. Are you guys really want Battlefield to become a competitive thing? How to balance the whole thing, so as not to scare away all those new casual players, while putting more focus on the sport?
Yeah, it's an interesting equation. And I think the way that we've looked at it is we've taken certain modes and we've tried to apply those to kind of the mainstream modes, and then we have some modes that are more focused on competitive gameplay. So the two modes that are competitive are called Rescue and Crosshair, and those are 5 versus 5 modes that we feel play into the kind of key aspects of competitive gaming, because we definitely agree that esports is a big market, and we want to play into that. We want to make sure that we're providing that type of experience for our competitive player base, in addition to providing the traditional modes like Team Deathmatch and Conquest, and throwing in a bunch of new stuff with Hotwire and Heist and Blood Moon.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.